You can have a team of 5 people probably doing as much as a team of 15 people if they're solid.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Collecting Keys Scale Show. So this is your first time to these Monday scale shows. On these, we interview operators in the real estate business, specifically off-market real estate, to hear about what is working for them in this current market, through all the ups and downs and everything in between that we are experiencing in 2024, kind of the post-COVID boom period. And today we are welcomed by Elvis Clark, who is a good buddy of mine down in Texas. And I originally connected with Elvis at a meetup with Aaron Muchstegui, and he is doing all kinds of awesome things down there in Texas. And you said you kind of doing the full band from Austin to San Antonio. So I'm excited to hear what exactly is working for you right now and how you are handling things in your market that is notoriously struggling for real estate investors at the moment. So Elvis, to get us started, why don't you give us a quick 2-3 minutes, who exactly you are, what exactly got you into real estate, and what your team currently looks like.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on. It's good seeing you. Let's just get straight to it. So I've been doing auctions. My primary focus and specialty is like auctions and foreclosures. I've been doing that for about 5-6 years. What got me started in real estate was maybe 14-15 years ago when I quit my full-time job. It was a sales job, and I needed to basically have like 2 years of income or something to be able to buy a house or car right before I quit, because I was going to go do contract work. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I hit those 2 years in sales, I was looking around for a property, and I found one that was like in my hometown. So I'm from Richmond, Rosenberg, Texas area, south of Houston, born and raised there. I've been in Austin 9 years now. So when I was looking for a property, I found this property that was listed on the market for, I think it was $110,000. And I called them up. It was 6 acres, a small little home. Called them up, and the guy really needed to sell it. They weren't getting any offers at the time. And I asked, could they do a seller finance? So they said they were open to the seller finance. They asked me how much could I put down. At the time, I think it was like $1,000 down. So they actually even accepted $1,000 down, and I got it for $90,000. So that was my first property. Got my car, then quit.
How long ago was that? 6 years ago?
14 years ago.
That was 14 years. How was that even on your radar at that point? Like, to think about seller financing? Did you have a mentor or something?
No, I kind of like knew about it. And at the time, I think I didn't qualify for a loan or something to do with the job. And I was like, well, is he willing to do a seller finance? Maybe the realtor brought it up, but I can't remember.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
But I was just like, this is what I have. This is what I can do. And the guy needed to move quick and needed to get rid of the property. So he ended up accepting it. So
that's great.
I don't think I'll ever find a deal like that again, though. So
that's awesome. You were ahead of your time on that one for sure.
Yes.
So anyways, didn't mean to cut you off. That was just like, that's such like an early adopter of creative financing like that from the relative sense. So you were able to get your car.
Yeah. So I got my car, I got the property. And at the time, I didn't really know what seller finance was until now. And then I kind of like, I go back and look at it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's the way it worked. But so I got that, and then I put my 2 weeks in and quit and started doing like experiential marketing for events in Brandon. I was traveling a lot to Austin. And in the meantime, I was like, well, I have this land. It's 6 acres. How can I develop this land? Started talking to people and realized, oh, you know what? It's going to cost me like a good chunk of money or to find someone to even do anything on this property. So I was like way ahead of my time, or way behind on my time. And so a few years go by, I just didn't do anything with the property, just rented it out. And then I had a buddy back in Houston. Well, we had talked about getting a real estate again. We're like, man, it would be cool to try to flip houses. So we started going around, just bidding on houses like in Houston. And at that time, it was so hard. We were going to so many properties because we didn't really have solid contractors and we didn't really know the numbers. So these guys that have been doing it for years were coming in there and just outbidding us all the time. And then we met this guy one time that was like, oh man, you should go to the auctions. And we saw him do it and saw him buy like 6 properties. And we're like, oh man, this is really cool. And he's been doing it for like 18 years. So we had a little bit of money saved up. We're like, well, let's just do it. Worst case, I can go back to work and, get some more money. So we went to the auction. we, we bought a house, we bought a condo, went through that process. But he didn't tell us we were going to need extra money. We used all our buying power. So kind of had to go, we kind of had to go, we kind of had to go back to work. And then we didn't touch the properties for about 6 months. And then, finally got there, rehabbed one of them, sold it, profited on that one. And then the other one we just sold as is because it needed a ton of work. And then we were like, cool, let's just go back and keep doing it.
Nice. So how long ago was that when you started buying at the auctions? I
think about 5-6 years ago.
Okay, cool.
So I've been in Austin 9 years, but I was started real estate in Houston and was majority buying there just because I couldn't really afford anything in Austin at the time.
Sure. That's crazy though, dude. Like I love the fact that you just went in and got after it, right? Because that's also one of the reasons I guarantee you that you're doing pretty well now is that you're not afraid to just take action, right? And I don't know how to buy a house at auction, but I'm going to go and do it. I'm just going to go bid on these things. And that's great, right? That's a great entrepreneurial trait that I think is heavily taken for granted that most people just don't have that. Yeah. So that's awesome though, dude. And so your current business and exit strategy in 2024, what does that look like? And what's your specific role now?
Just kind of operator right now. Just kind of we slowed down a lot in the beginning of the year. We had a bunch of flips and different innovations going on when the market shifted, and we took some pretty big hits, one after another, just because we were kind of like maybe in the 500 to 600 range on some of these properties, and some of them took almost $100,000 dip. So just kind of hurt us, and then we just stopped going to auction. We stopped buying properties in general. Like, okay, we need to get rid of this inventory. I started cutting some of our staff and just figuring out that. And then I was just like, well, let's just go back to, the basics, which I was like, let's just get 1 or 2 people. I hired 1 or 2 people back, feet on the ground. Like I have 2 callers right now. I'm just looking at the deals, submitting the offers, and then we're just kind of dispone. I'm partnering up with other people to dispose the properties, honestly. But I have a few buyers myself from the auctions, so I've built up quite a good friendship of cash buyers from the auctions.
Nice.
So they're still looking for deals, but team is pretty small right now. But just trying to take it steady. Like honestly, I was just thinking about it. Like earlier this year, you can have a team of 5 people probably doing as much as a team of 15 people if they're solid.
100%. And that's what we've learned as well with our big kind of downscaling from our national company, just coming back to local, like we were talking about before the show. Our top line with our local company is going to be 30% of what our big national team was, but the profitability is so much higher. And it turns out we're going to be making actually more take home pay with less headache. And so why would we not do that, right? It's just less HR issues, less churn of staff, less hiring, and more actually being a real estate operator, which is, honestly more fun. It's richer than dealing with whatever teams.
Yeah, because I feel like the turnover rate in this business, I hear people talking all the time, they're just like, oh, got rid of this person. What sucked? I actually had brought on someone that was really good on helping us on the team, and they just ghosted or just went offline out of nowhere. And
they quiet quit.
Yeah, everything was going so well too, and I was just like, what the hell? I was
that
just
sucks.
Like, it's so annoying because he was doing such a good job, and I'm just not sure if maybe something personal is going on. So I'll give it another day, but I'm just like, what is going on?
This is this week that this happened. But
yeah, literally they stopped communicating last Thursday, and I'm just like, what's going on? Did you die? Everything was going so good. And I just don't even want to go through that process of rehiring again for this position. Yeah. So
you're going to have to start treating him like a seller, bro. You're going to have to get new phone numbers. You're going to have to call him, have somebody else call him, do a little bait and switch text message if you can get him to engage with you.
Yeah. So
that's funny, man. So how are you sourcing all your deals and everything right now?
Right now, so we're just focused on pre-foreclosure and tax sales right now. Still looking at some auction stuff, but really, I just went back to, like I said, I just wanted to stick to what I was good at, and which is our focus was always auctions and foreclosures. Sure. So just really getting good at that, because with our model, we kind of offer a whole full service when helping homeowners with going through foreclosure, with relocating them, getting them on the credit program, all this other stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to chase too many avenues. Then it just starts getting too much. So let's just.
Yeah. How are you able to be most competitive with like the tax sale and pre-foreclosure stuff, because I feel like that's like the niche that everyone, I would say, that's been in real estate for a long time tends to gravitate to. And there's a lot of people, and then as a result, a lot of new folks that we talk to, whether they're looking at like joining up with us in Scale or they just hit me up on Instagram or whatever, they're always thinking like pre-foreclosure, tax delinquency stuff. And then when we tell them like, oh, we just like market to absentee owners with mail, they go, no, I don't want to do that. I want to talk to like the pre-foreclosure people. So I guess how are you able to get deals like that are actually good? Because the stories that I always hear is like people buy stuff at such insane prices, it doesn't make sense.
Oh, I mean, sometimes, I mean, not the auctions, but sometimes, like, really, I think our advantage is actually talking to the homeowner, knowing what to talk about, because we don't just, we actually, when we go in the conversation, we're not trying to just buy your property. We actually talk to you, like, have you talked to your bank yet about getting a loan modification? What options have you talked about? Have you talked about a friend or family getting a personal loan to get your loan reinstated? And then after those conversations, then we start going to the other options. So in the beginning, we're building that relationship, you know, the rapport with the homeowner, because we're not just like, hey, do you want to sell your house? Like that's the last thing they want to hear when they're going through a foreclosure. So we kind of try to educate them. Okay, well, you know, what if I were to give you this $20,000 to reinstate your loan? I can give you a loan, but do you really want to have to pay me back monthly and then your loan that, you know, you just got behind on again? Do you really want to go through that? Or we can look at these other options, help you avoid the foreclosure, bring your loan back good standing, help you get some positive payments on your credit so it's not hit, and then we'll help you relocate you with one of our agents, get you into the rental for 6 months a year while we put you on a credit program, and then you can buy something more affordable. So we go through that whole process, and then just depending on the situation, we look at all options. So
yeah. That's awesome. So you're truly providing a service, right? Which I think is such a thing that gets lost in the real estate investment business. Is it's not always just us and them with the buyers and sellers, right? You can provide a mutually beneficial benefit like that.
Yeah.
And so like the legalities of doing all that stuff, you know, are you actually like fronting money to get their loans reinstated? Like how do you secure that?
Yeah. So we actually use all our own capital. So we're all in-house. So we'll basically reinstate the loan. Well, so we do everything. We'll reinstate the loan. And that's the difference. Like everyone wants to get into these, but if you're not aware, it's kind of difficult. Like you have some wholesalers that are very uneducated about these foreclosures. They'll go lock up the deal. And we've had this situation before where a wholesaler didn't want to release the deal. And I told him we'd partner up on it. And he was like, no, I got a buyer. And I was like, if you don't have this settled or reinstated before this Friday of the auction, it's going to get sold. And it did get sold and basically screwed over the homeowner. She just lost her house at auction. And now, you know, her credit's hit for 7 years with the foreclosure. So,
yeah, right.
But we go through all that process. Yeah. We'll reinstate the loan. We'll get them good standing. Obviously we have an agreement and contract before we send any money.
Yeah. Have you had ones go sideways where people like decide they're not going to pay you and they just, you know, continue to squat and then lose their house anyway? Or is that just not happen in Texas? You can just go drive them out. And shoot.
Well, like before we even submit a reinstatement, we already have like we're already on the deed of the house.
Ah, gotcha. So you get it deeded to you first.
Yeah.
So then once you get the deed, you own the property. So they're essentially, are they trying to buy it back from you on like a lease to own sort of situation, or like a seller finance, or you're going to sell it and then they're going to walk away with some cash, I guess, or is literally the incentive just their credit being saved?
So it depends on the conversation. So there's different ways we can exit, just whatever deal we work out makes sense. Most of the time we'll offer them some cash out of the equity. We'll look at the equity of the property. We agree to, you know, give them half up front after we take the deed. And then, but first things first, we agree to the terms. We sign the contracts. We get the deed recorded. Then we first thing we need to mail the check to get the loan reinstated. We need to bring back the home in good standing. So once that's confirmed and we know it's the foreclosure is not like in place, then we'll move forward with the terms of like getting her half her money and then helping her relocate. Most time it's helping them relocate into a new spot. And then we come in, we clean the house, we rehab it, and then relist in the market, or we already have a buyer lined up for the property.
Yeah, I was laughing because you said her very specifically, so I'm guessing you work with a lot of like old.
Well, I actually had one in mind, but I was just thinking about her because like we had one. Like sometimes, you know, these are very complicated. Like it can seem like it's going good, and then they're just like all over the place. So
Yeah. What are some of like the biggest objections and stuff that you have doing this kind of conversation? Because it's a little bit different from what we do on the wholesale end, where 95% of the time it's like a cash close sort of deal. The money matters a lot, but usually it's like security or things like that that people are mostly worried about. But with these, you're entering into a longer relationship with the individual. So are there like different kind of objections that you face versus like wholesale or like cash purchase stuff, or is it kind of the same?
I think it's kind of the same. Just depends on where the
Sure.
conversation. They already know that we're going to kind of basically sub to. We go through that conversation and sub to in their property, taking over their mortgage. Sometimes there has been where they're like, "I just want my loan paid off. I just want it." And if there's enough equity and the deal's good enough, we'll go ahead and just pay it off or hard money it out,
Sure.
right? But
Cool.
a lot of times we don't want to do that. We'd rather come in with less capital. If we can reinstate and take over your mortgage payments, then we're only all capital in for what we're paying you on equity and then reinstatement, right? And then maybe whatever the house needs updates on.
Sure.
So we'd prefer that, but those conversations do come up where, they're just like, oh, I just want my house paid off. In that case, we do try to tell them like, hey, if you let us reinstate the loan, get it back in good standing, and then get a couple positive payments for a couple months, it'll actually help you. But it just depends. Sometimes they
Yeah.
just want to be done with it. We've had people where they're just like, oh, I'm done. I'm just going to let it foreclose. And I'm like, dude, you have so much equity. Like,
Yeah. Right. Don't be dumb. Yeah.
yeah.
So you are actually buying the property subject to the existing mortgage then when you do it. Have you had any issues with the lenders like doing due on sale or things like that because you paid up the loan and it's kind of makes them
No.
investigate? You haven't? Okay.
No,
So I'm
knocking on wood, but no, not really.
mhm.
Um,
Not really.
no, we have not.
You have not. Okay.
We've had homeowners where they're like, we're going to call the mortgage. We need to get this loan out of our name. And, I do agree to like, I know like sub two is the big thing right now, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's trying to do it. And, I remember doing this like 5 years ago when this guy was teaching me. It's like so structured so much better now, but still like all these deals too, where people get in, like you do risk that. And then I think a lot of people don't tell you, like whenever the homeowners can just decide a year later, oh, I just don't want this loan in my name. They can just easily call the loan and tell them what's going on.
Yeah.
I just don't like fooling with it. I had a couple sub twos, and then like one couple was getting a divorce, and they just started like a whole mess, and the wife started reaching out to the mortgage. It's just, I don't know. I try not to keep them honestly no longer than a year.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm asking that because we had a situation last December where we bailed out a landlord that was in pre-foreclosure on 3 properties. And we bought them sub two and we paid up his loans. And literally a week later, we got called by the lender wanting to know what our relationship was with the previous owner. And they called all the loans due. And so that process of paying up the loans, because it was like on the brink of foreclosure, that made them, I think end of the year too, made them go and look at the deed, and they saw that we were on title, immediately looked us up and saw that we were not who they did the loan for, and they called it. So I wasn't sure if you'd faced anything the same yet. And just so you know too, all the bullshit they say about, oh, just deed it back to the seller. Nah, that's not a thing. Like, they made us pay off $850,000 worth of mortgages in 30 days, which was
Wait, so I mean, did you try deeding it back?
Oh yeah. They were like, they're like, you can do whatever you want. They're like, we're suing him. We're suing you. Like, we're coming after you for this, for violating the loan agreement. And we we're like, okay. So we actually played hardball, and we were like, so here's what we're willing to do is basically pay off the principal on the loans, not any of the back interest or anything like that you're claiming that you now want. And if you don't do it, you'll have to foreclose on us. And just so you know, we are very sophisticated and we will make it a pain in your ass. And they're like, fine, just pay us off. And that's what we did. Yeah, it was a whole freaking nightmare. So I guess I want to go down that a little bit more before we move on to another question. So like, what is your process for you securing that? Since you said it's like a little bit more clear now, like how do you make sure that if there is a divorce or there's an insurance claim or even getting a payoff statement that you're actually able to do that when you go to sell the house?
So I mean, everything's done beforehand. So like we have,
Sure.
we'll get the title check, we'll get everything done. I mean, we'll figure all this out before we even, take over, agree with the terms. And we want to make sure too, they're, everything that they're telling us is correct as well. But definitely want to get title to look into it. Now, title, there are title companies that do this whole process and sub too. So they'll make sure everything's good.
Yeah.
So we kind of just go through the process with the title. We don't do any extra insurance because there is insurance with the mortgage from the seller. So
Sure.
like
But like,
pay that.
But so the how you get insurance, right, with the mortgage, house burns down. How do you make it so you actually get the money and the insurance company doesn't come and go, well, you're not the insured person, so it sucks to suck.
Well, I guess that would be a conversation we'd have with the seller.
Hasn't happened yet. Yeah, right.
No, no.
So,
yeah,
because that's always one of my biggest knocks on sub two is no one talks about that piece of it, right? Or like the biggest thing with ours when we were trying to do it, the fucking lenders wanted us to pay them off, but we couldn't get a payoff statement from the note servicing company because they were like, we don't know who you are. And we were like, well, we need this payoff. Like we're trying to pay off the loan. They were like, no, like you're not the approved person. And then the seller was like, well, I'm done with you guys. This is your problem. It was a freaking nightmare, man.
Yeah. I always say, try to be in good standing with the seller until you get rid of the property. Yeah. You know, we have like one right now where the lady's just been a nightmare, but we just kind of cater. We have that conversation. Okay. Yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to help you. Like she just made it such a difficult process. She was actually just playing the victim a lot in a lot of situations. Yeah. We did so much for this lady, but I was just like, you know what? We don't want her causing issues. We'll keep, going until we sell this property. I would just say, if you're going to do one, make sure you're in good communication with the seller and good terms, just because, if anything comes up, you want to be able to work that solution with them.
Sure.
But honestly, I'll look in these like Facebook groups sometimes, people where they're like, oh my God, what do I do in sub two? Because everyone's just trying to do a sub two deal now. And it's just like, man, there's a lot more to it.
I know. And they're trying to like force them and they're doing weird stuff. Yeah. I know. I'm a big, I would say like sub two community pace more hater. Cause I think too many people try to do it incorrectly and don't respect how complex and serious of a thing it actually is.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing with foreclosures. People just go after them and try, figuring out the situation. Like they'll go try to lock up the deal, but they don't even know like what's on the back end. And then when they go try to sell the deal, goes to title. And now it's like, oh, wait a minute, this property has this liens, has this much taxes. The deal doesn't make sense anymore. It's just like, look through all those options before you start wasting everyone's time and even the sellers.
Yeah. Remind me, what'd you say your team looks like? How many people do you have?
Right now we're 5. So
5?
Yeah. So I have three callers, 1 feet on the ground in Houston, 1 here in Austin, and then 1 in San Antonio.
How do you keep all these people organized and get them trained up on this kind of stuff? Because this is like what you're talking about is a more advanced version of real estate, right? It's not like a wholesale cash offer where you go and you run basic comps and you do 75% minus repairs, but you have a whole customer service piece to this. There's a lot of legalities around the pre-foreclosure, sub 2 stuff, the tax delinquencies. Are you able to like just find people that already know this in Texas, or do you have like a pretty regimented system for getting people trained up?
It's kind of hard, man, with the foreclosures. I am still involved a lot right now. That people like one of the Houston guys, he's been killing it. He wanted to get in real estate, and now every day he's just sending me leads, or he's like going and starting to door knock and chase these people down, showing up to their houses. The best way, I tell everyone, we'll do weekly Zooms, training, stuff like that over it. But I just told him, I was like, look, if you're going to take this seriously, the best way to learn is let's get someone interested, and you're going to sit down and watch me do the whole process with them, what questions ask, what's the best solution, and just get them used to that. And then a lot of times I'll just have them, when they're communicating with the seller, I'll text them or send them, hey, tell them to say this, do this contract. I'm having them do the actual experience themselves. So I kind of actually just walk them through the steps of doing the deal, but reviewing it.
Sure.
So, and it's such a small team, so it's not like hard right now. Like I have to just manage it right with them and then just stay on top of them. But that's fine right now since we're a smaller team. I would goal is to get 1 or 2 solid people that can at least eventually just take over this, know the options when they're looking at the deal, know what to do, and then they just send it to me for approval. And then I'm like, okay, looks good, right? But since it's more complex, like what are the questions? How are we going to exit this? What's the process like with the attorney and stuff like that? Kind of still more involved, but
Yeah, that's always hard with sales reps in general anyway, because their incentive is different from yours slightly, right? Like they're incentivized for a deal to close, period. You're incentivized for them to get the best deal possible. I mean, even to this day, we still hold our underwriting pretty close to our chest. And like the sales guys that we have, they can go and they can get ranges, but we're still the one that has to approve the contract price.
Yeah.
Just because otherwise what happens is they'll get like one big commission and now they only want big commissions, or actually they'll be undercutting things, or they have money problems at home. They're trying to get every deal forced through that they can because they need to get a paycheck.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that's kind of been the like difficult right now. Like this new guy that's coming in, I was like, man, you're coming in probably like one of the worst times, but it's good. I was like, let's get the reps in. Cause like we're submitting a lot of offers. Like I think right now we're doing like 70% just to be safe right now. Like, we just got this morning a deal. The ARV was like maybe 155, 160. We offered like maybe 110. We'll cover closing cost commission, and it maybe needed 10 to 15K, like 10K work. So someone they took the bid, someone offered 130. I'm just like, it's just so tight. I don't know. Maybe they're holding on to it, but like some of these deals just don't make sense. And I'm like, I'd rather not be stuck in a bad deal because I've been there, and we'll just keep submitting until we get one really good deal.
Totally. Well, know what that person will probably do is they'll get to a week before closing, they'll price shop in the 110 anyway and just create a shitty situation for everybody.
Yeah, because I mean, we still do off market deals. Like I have referrals and agents that send us stuff, so we'll just like submit offers. Usually, they're not our best deals, but sometimes they can be. But if we can make a 10K fee or 15K, that's still money right there. But it has to make sense for an investor as well, because being a flipper myself, I'm just like I'm not gonna share a deal if I don't think there's any like meat on the bone.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, now, dude, that's the whole model now, dude. You go and you start a meetup and you just sell your shitty deals to all the sucker newbies that roll up.
Man, I get so many deals. I'm just like, what? I'm honestly, I just tell people, I was like, I'm not trying to go through all this work to make 10, 15, 20K after rehab. Like,
yeah, for sure. But no, that's a whole model that I've seen preached by people recently, is like, if you become like the authority in your industry, you have more buyers because you can sell them to all the newbies that come through. But then ultimately what happens is all those newbies start losing their ass on the deals they buy from you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's funny to you. It probably feels simple. To an outside perspective, I would say you have a much more complicated real estate business than most people that I know. Just because you're getting more into the weeds of these kind of transactions, you're having these kind of longer term relationships. So I guess with all that, what's been like the best system that you think that you've integrated, whether that's like a CRM, whether that's like an organizational tool, whether that's been like a mentor, like a coach, that's really kind of helped you grow this way? Because what you're describing is less common than just like finding YouTube videos or listening to podcasts to figure out what you're doing.
I mean, I listen to all that stuff still every day. I was actually catching up on some of your episodes the other day. It's like, let me just check it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like you can never stop learning, especially in this industry. Like we dealt with a lot of auctions, and a lot of this was kind of new for us, a couple of years ago. Like we never really wholesaled or anything. So it was just such a different system because we weren't, wholesaling is a whole different ballgame, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And been adjusted into that a little bit, but I would say definitely CRM systems work. When we first got stuff started, we were using like Podio, this whole setup, and honestly, it was annoying. It was like
it's trash.
It sucked.
Yeah.
And then we were a smaller team, and I went ahead and just like created my whole like smaller CRM system on Notion, which I built out the whole thing myself on there. And it worked line. It worked perfect for a pipeline. And then we were using, smartphone dialer, stuff like that for communication and dialing. But Remember, we weren't doing like mass lists of like 5,000 leads. Our leads are smaller because we're doing like counties and foreclosures. So it was a little bit more to handle. But definitely a CRM. You need something with the leads, follow up, all that stuff. And then, in the beginning, when we started trying to go a little bit more wholesale route, we were, I think we were doing, direct mail, which that is great. It's a long-term game.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we were just kind of like sending it all over the place. So that was like a learning curve as well.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. That's a whole other skill set. So nice, man. So you're literally you're the epitome of an entrepreneur, dude. You're like, I can't quite find something that matches what I want to do. So I'm just going to build it myself with tools that are out there.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be switching to RE Simply. It's just a better system. We're going to be switching to that. Yeah. And then communication, we use like Slack, and then WhatsApp.
Awesome, man. No, that's good stuff. Awesome. All right. So we're going to go into our end of show questions here to round out this conversation. So first question, which is always a crowd favorite. What is your craziest real estate investing story? This can be a big win, crazy tenant, wild transaction where you thought you were going to lose it 18 times, the time you found a capybara breeding, situation in a living room, whatever you got. Let's hear it.
Man, we've seen quite a few things, especially with the auctions, just like hoarder houses. If you've seen some of my videos, I mean, we'll walk to these houses in these really nice neighborhoods. Man, crazy story. I would just say, one house gave this guy we gave this guy like 2-3 months to move out, and he never did. We show up to the house, everything was still there. Like every item was there. He was like making his own beer and stuff in his master bathrooms and all kinds of crazy shit, and just had all kinds of like ammo and I don't know, like fake grenades and stuff.
Fake grenades.
Yeah, so I don't know. That I would just say that's probably the most interesting one. Just there was all kinds of random shit, and this guy was literally giving us so much trouble and just like coming into the property, threatened. And I was just like, man, I was like, I hope he doesn't like blow up this house or something.
In Texas, you got to worry about that stuff too, man. People are passionate about their firearms and everything down there.
Yeah. So I don't know. We've had quite a few. I mean, dealing with auctions and foreclosures, it's kind of normal dealing with situations like that. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, run of the mill. I like it. Cool. If you could go back to the very beginning, what's one thing that you do differently? And you can't say like, I wish I would have kept everything, but like something that would have helped grow your business faster.
Yeah. I honestly, if I would have gone back, I would have probably would have stayed in my W-2 a little bit longer and tried to leverage more of those credit lines and loans. Cause being in sales and contracting business, I never was able to get loans. So that's why I was always just saving my cash and investing it or trying to buy something. And that's kind of primarily why I got into auctions. And I think about it now, and you see all these people promoting explaining the process, like, leverage before you quit your W-2, leverage these credit lines, leverage, loans, stuff like that. I would say that would have helped me out a lot in different opportunities, but I didn't go that route. I've just always been at sales and commissions. And the way I see it is like, well, if I lose this cash, I can always go back and make it again. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. I can definitely agree with where you're coming from. My always argument against people being on a W-2 at the same time is it is a hard business to build out full part-time. Right. And there's always like a security blanket with a lot of people's W-2 that prevents them from taking any real risk that unfortunately is necessary to make money in this business if you're serious about it.
And I would say like, wholesaling too, like wholesaling is a great way to get in. If I had no idea what wholesaling was, I probably got into real estate one of the hardest ways. But I thought that was normal. I just was like, oh, go buy property at the auction cash, and so I definitely recommend, I always talk to people, it's like, get into wholesale and learn, the basics of that. Cause you can get in with like little amount of money and get started that way. And plus learn the process. And then if you want to buy auctions and stuff like that, then you can, go to someone to show you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Awesome. All right, Elvis, last question. Where can people find you, follow you, and reach out to you?
You can reach out to me on my Instagram at the Elvis Clark. Shoot me a message if you have any questions about foreclosures, auctions, anything like that.
Cool. And I guess just to reiterate, you said from Austin all the way down to San Antonio area.
Just San Antonio, Austin, and we just started back in Houston as well, like near where my hometown is. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. It's that entire corridor of Texas there. Awesome.
Yeah.
Right on, guys. Well, you heard it here. If you guys are doing any deals down there, hit up Elvis. He would love to maybe buy some deals from you, sell some deals to you, and maybe even help you out on a couple of foreclosures if he's feeling friendly that day. So Elvis, dude, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. And congrats on your success. It's funny. I didn't realize all those details of your business. So it's always fun to kind of do like a deep dive conversation. So everyone reach out to Elvis. Don't be shy. Remember, people come on these shows because they want to engage with you. Otherwise, they would just sit at home and not waste their time going on podcasts and things. So hit them up, let them know that you're doing deals in the area, and I'm sure it'll help you out. So thanks for everybody for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.